This video is brought to you by Manscaped, the leader in below-the-waist grooming. You trust them with your most precious assets, and now with the new Platinum Package 4.0, you can trust them with the whole shebang. Visit manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the offer code SKILLUP. Click below or stick around to the end of the video to learn more. Let's deal with the elephant in the room first. Helena Taylor. Man, that whole situation was a bummer, wasn't it? For anyone not caught up, Taylor was the voice actor for Bayonetta in the first two games, but Platinum says that she was unable to return due to what they called overlapping circumstances. Taylor then took to Twitter to claim that she was only offered $4,000 to voice the entire game, and that was the reason she turned down the role. She took a swipe at her replacement, Jennifer Hale, and she also called for fans to boycott the game. Turns out, Taylor was being a little tricksy with the truth. The $4,000 amount she was talking about was an offer to do a cameo after she had turned down an initial offer of $15,000 to voice the entire game. I'm leaving a lot of detail out here, but the bottom line is, whatever you may think about that $15,000 offer, Taylor was not forthright in her description of events, and her attempts to weaponize the fanbase, plus that swipe at Hale, the whole thing cast a very dour pall over the release of Bayonetta 3. Luckily, there is one silver bullet solution to all of that gloomy unpleasantness. You know what it is? Playing Bayonetta 3, because this game is such a relentless, unashamed celebration of Bayonetta, of this character, of her companions, of the demon she fights alongside, and the outrageous spectacle that is the hallmark of this series. This is so joyous that at times you can just see how much fun Platinum are having making this, the ridiculous shit they come up with, and the quick winks to the camera when the game acknowledges that they know, that you know how fucking wild all of this is. But that little wink is everything, because it reminds you that you and Platinum are in this together. They make a very specific type of game, and they make it for those that love it, and Bayonetta 3 really feels like a big love-in, for real. In addition to that, it's also a pretty amazing game. The breadth of Bayonetta 3 is remarkable. The number of unique weapons, the number of attacks and combos with those weapons, the number of summonable demons, the number of enemies, the number of different offshoot game modes that the game suddenly flicks to at a moment's notice. When I reviewed It Takes Two, I commented that that was a game that felt decadent for how quickly it would spin up new ideas before quickly tossing them aside. Here in Bayonetta 3, Platinum have the same relentless desire to add new stuff, but the difference is that most of it stays in the game throughout the rest of your playthrough. By the end, you just look back at it all and you're like, damn man, how'd they cram all this into one video game? It's not without its problems though. The biggest one is how limiting the Nintendo Switch has become. Where Platinum breathes so much imagination into their core gameplay elements, they are seriously hamstrung when it comes to environments, which in turn has an impact on exploration, puzzles, and collectibles. I think the verse structure has also outlived its purpose, as with so many new tools to play with in each new chapter, the verses that last as little as 30 seconds never really let you experiment or become confident with those new tools. Finally, the summonable demons are a brilliant addition to the game, but they also create a lot of visual noise that hasn't been elegantly solved here, often putting them at odds with how satisfying and clean the core combat is. Those things don't detract from what Platinum have achieved here with Bayonetta 3 though. I keep coming back to this word relentless because that's how Bayonetta 3 feels. Utterly relentless. Relentless action, relentless spectacle, relentless imagination. It just never ever stops. Other games generally settle into a rhythm. Bayonetta 3 never does that, and the result is this truly insane, unforgettable ride. I wouldn't say that Bayonetta 3 has a good story because it's kind of nonsense, but it has an excellent premise, which is that a new baddie by the name of Singularity is intent on wiping out each and every reality to arrive at a singular truth, aka Singularity. Clever, huh? What does that look like in practice? It means that we're taking a trip through the multiverse, baby. Every few chapters you're whipped away to not only a new place, not only a new time, but a new reality where everything is the same, but different. Case in point, there are other Bayonettas in those realities, each of whom have their own weaponry and demons they summon and story arcs that you have to help them complete. It is such a thrill to arrive in each new location and make your way through it, wondering the entire time, what will this Bayonetta be like? I wonder what sort of crazy shit she's capable of. I wonder what she'll need help with. Besides kicking the shit out of demons, of course. This gives the entire game some really nice pacing as you're working towards not only a final boss battle at the end of the game and a resolution of that overall storyline, but you're engaged in these small sagas, each of which have a clever 3-act structure that I always enjoyed. But again, to be clear, you're not playing Bayonetta for the story, you're playing it for everything else. But it is nice that Platinum have arrived at such a great premise, that's such a rich playground for not only their imagination, but for celebrating Bayonetta. And that's what I was talking about in the intro. The multiverse take allows us to see so many different types of Bayonettas, and each one is this new take on her power, her swagger, her charm. Each one is a reminder of why this character is so cool. You can change her clothes, her weapons, the demons she's partnering up with, but no matter what, she is still, in every instance, unmistakably Bayonetta. And not for nothing, but Jennifer Hale does a really good job voicing her. I'm sure people will have their own preferences this way or that, but I think Hale totally landed the unshakable confidence and saucy, innuendo-laden delivery of every line. Even before all of this drama with Taylor, I really wasn't lamenting her absence. Hale's Bayonetta still sounds like Bayonetta, at least to me.
Learn to fight for others, not just for yourself. I'm sure he'll give you lots of practice.
Bayonetta 3 has a number of returning characters like Jean, Radahn, and Luca, but it also adds a new character to the mix as well in Viola. Viola plays a pivotal role in the story, which I won't spoil obviously, but I think she's a great addition to the cast. She's less experienced and a hell of a lot goofier than the Umbra witches she's sharing the stage with, and it's kind of cool to see someone actually a little overwhelmed by everything going on, rather than just casually smirking at it all. She's only playable in select chapters, but I always enjoyed the switch to her since it mixed things up both narratively and in terms of combat since she has her own unique kit. She's not a reskin, she is very much her own woman, and playing with her is just as fun as playing with Bayonetta herself, albeit with far fewer options since Viola can't mix and match her loadout like Bayonetta can. And you better believe that there are a lot of ways to mix and match your loadout this time around. Bayonetta 3 delivers some massive changes to the series' combat and customization, almost all of which are fantastic, and the way we're introduced to those things is superb. Remember all of those Bayonettas I mentioned earlier? Well, they each have their own weapon and demon companion, and rather than buy this stuff from Radahn at the Gates of Hell, you just automatically unlock this stuff as you complete major story arcs. It works super well because you get to see this stuff in action before you actually get to use it yourself, and it gives you something to look forward to as you make your way through each chapter. The arsenal of weaponry, I won't spoil it all, but I will say that there is more than enough, especially when you look at how transformative these weapons are across every part of the game. Weapons fulfill multiple purposes. Obviously, they're a new tool you can use to beat up bad guys, sure, but each weapon is also aligned to a demon. So at the back end of each of your combos, you will transform into that demon, and it's in that form that you'll deliver those last few hits. There's more though. Double tapping the right trigger will instantly transform you into that demon when you're exploring the level, and it's this neat trick since each demon has their own traversal abilities. Madama Butterfly will float gracefully, making jumping challenges much easier, while the Spider Demon can literally climb up walls, allowing you to reach places that you couldn't without his assistance. In this way, proper demon usage is kind of a mini-game that powers the explorative side of the game, since using the right demon in the right area is going to help you beat every challenge, find every secret, and collect every collectible. The imagination that went into these weapons is unbelievable. I actually can't show you half of them because Platinum have asked us not to, which is fine by the way, they want to protect the surprise, I get it. But just as an example, one of these weapons is a literal freight train. Like imagine a freight train on a stick. That is what you were swinging around, and that is not the wildest weapon in Bayonetta's arsenal, by any stretch. I think if you look at the weapon list from the first two games, you see some similarities, especially with the fact that they're all actual weapons, like swords and claws and guns. In Bayonetta 3, most of the weapons are not actual weapons. They are things that the mad scientists at Platinum Games have turned into weapons. I can't say more than that, but it's out of control. And none of them are gimmicks, by the way. Each weapon is extremely usable, has its own distinct identity, and its own utility that's going to make it more useful in certain scenarios. The G-Pillar is a big club, for example, great for when you're wailing on a big target with its feet firmly planted on the ground. The Ignis Yo-Yo is a yo-yo on fire, and it has huge range, making it ideal for dealing with airborne targets. Plus, each of these weapons have a deep set of combos, the likes of which you could never master on a first or second playthrough, and those combos become even more elaborate when you start unlocking new moves for those weapons. Each weapon, every single one, has an elaborate skill tree full of meaningful upgrades. None of the nodes are like, do 5% more damage with this weapon. That's garbage. These nodes are like, transform into a freight train to dash forward, pulling out these giant razors as you do so and damaging anything in your path. These new abilities are not resource dumps. They are new moves to enhance your survivability, your mobility, and your lethality, and you weave them into your combos, and it's so good. But the weapons are just one side of the combat equation, because Bayonetta 3 also introduces demon slavery. Just as you amass a collection of weapons you can whip out at any time, you also amass a collection of demons you can summon at any point. It's like Pokemon, only the trainers all have to get naked and start dancing to make their Pokemon fight. Pressing the left trigger at any time will instantly summon a demon of your choosing. At that point, so long as you continue to hold that left trigger, you are now in command of them. Bayonetta will just be vibing off to the side while you control this gargantuan demon, which also has its own movesets and its own combos and its own skill tree with unlocks giving it more moves and more combos. They're nowhere near as deep as Bayonetta's, but they're enough so that you aren't just pressing buttons, you are deliberately dishing out a variety of attacks to maximize your damage. And it's really well balanced actually. You can summon these guys a lot since it's all based on how much magic you have in reserve, and you typically have a lot of magic. In each verse, it's possible to have, I'd say, about 70% uptime on your summoned demon if you're playing well. But if Bayonetta gets hit while channeling the summon, then it's instantly broken, and there are some demons who can straight up KO your demon in a single attack, which forces you to revert back to fight as Bayonetta. Plus, the demons you summon don't do more damage than Bayonetta does, it's just a different way to deal damage, so overall it's a really well balanced addition, I think. Critically, it's also not necessary, at least most of the time. I do imagine that some character action purists won't like using these demon summons because they're less precise and less satisfying than the core combat, and these people are going to be able to largely ignore this new mechanic. Where I think they will engage it is at the back end of Bayonetta's combos, where a quick button press will summon your demon for a powerful finishing attack. In this way, the demons become an extension of the core combat loop rather than a substitute for it. One thing I would say about the demon summons is that as cool as they look, they also create a lot of visual noise and issues with perspective that Platinum have not fully solved here. In particular, when you're at all close to an enemy and your demon is nearby, camera can get really funky and either the enemy or your demon is obscuring your view. This seems somewhat unavoidable given the nature of this mechanic and how frantic gameplay often is, but it was enough of a problem that I would find myself repositioning, not out of any defensive need, but just so I could actually see what was going on. I'll admit that for me, Bayonetta 3 feels its absolute best when you're not using the demon summons and you're just fighting. That's when I can see everything clearly, when I can engage with this deep and broad combat sandbox, and when I can begin to hone a sense of mastery. I do think that the demon slavery system is a nice addition, but it's also messy, and while I'm glad it exists, I'm also glad that it's an optional addition to the overall combat model rather than a necessary one. Bottom line though, this is one of the most robust combat systems in any video game. The combination of a huge arsenal of weaponry plus the demon slaves. I mean, I finished this game and I reckon I've tapped into no more than around 10% of the capabilities of this combat framework. The path to truly understanding and mastering all of this would be a months-long journey, and there are precious few games you can say that about. Alright, so all of this is awesome, love it. Let's talk about some stuff that I didn't love. First of all, the verse structure. If you're unfamiliar with this, Bayonetta has strong biblical vibes, and the whole thing is divided up into chapters and verses. The chapters being the level, and the verses being the specific encounters within that level. You enter a verse, the walls go up around you, some enemies spawn in, you beat them down, and then you get a score at the end based on how well you did, scoring a pure platinum rating if you execute everything flawlessly, quickly, and with a nice combo rating. The structure has served Bayonetta well to this point, but I think it's outlived its usefulness now. It's no exaggeration to say that some verses will be 30 seconds or less of actual fighting. On average, I'd say that they're no more than 1 to 2 minutes long, and the better you play, the faster they get, obviously. Very often I found myself just starting to get into a combat rhythm when the verse would suddenly end because I'd killed everything, and that's an issue that persists throughout the entire game, mind you, not just the early chapters. Bayonetta 3 is constantly introducing you to new enemy types, constantly giving you new weapons to fight with, new demons to enslave. It's giving you a steady stream of unlocks in your skill trees that each substantially fatten out your combat repertoire, and the verse structure does not give you enough time or enough enemies to really suck the marrow out of those things. Some of the best times I had with Bayonetta 3 were in the practice mode, because that was where I could just fight and discover new combos and string together other combos and learn exactly how an enemy type attacks and all that stuff. And yeah, that's mastery that I can take into verses to get better scores later on or in subsequent playthroughs. but I actually don't care about scores. I just care about the fun factor, and I don't think this game's current structure really lets you fully learn and enjoy all of the tools at your disposal. I wonder if the verse structure is a function of the hardware limitations, because if there's one thing that really holds Bayonetta 3 back, it's the Nintendo Switch. This is the very first new release game I've ever reviewed where I thought to myself as I was playing it, I really hope this gets a remaster. For real, playing Bayonetta 3 is like traveling back in time 7 or 8 years. That's how rough this game looks at this point. And to be clear, that's not a slight on Platinum because they have to work with the hardware they've been given. It's really about the fact that the Nintendo Switch 2 just can't come soon enough. Platinum have had to put all of the Switch's processing power into character detail and frame rate, which was totally the right call, and performance overall is actually really good. A few dips here and there, but overall very solid. What suffers immensely is world design, which is without exception incredibly bare. Flat textures, uninspired spaces, zero visual flair to speak of, just nothing. And there are exploration sections in this game, by the way, where you're forced to poke around in these lifeless worlds, and yeah man, it's a bummer. As I said in my preview, Platinum are such visionaries and they've delivered so much in this game. Imagine the sorts of environments they could have delivered us if they weren't so constrained by Nintendo's aging hardware. Playing through Bayonetta 3, you can imagine a better version of it, one that retains all its combat chops and spectacle, but one that is structured differently, allowing for larger worlds, beautiful to behold and worth exploring, and filled with more enemies to fight. I hope that the Bayonetta series continues because I'd love to see a version of the game that didn't feel so held back. To this point, I've described Bayonetta 3 as a character action game, and it is, for sure. But you know what Bayonetta really is? It's a theater musical. It's a chorus bellowing, a set of changing backdrops cycled in and out with each curtain fall. It's a threadbare plot propped up by the song of violence and the spectacle of its choreography. And it's the gyrating leading lady in the spotlight, lapping up every bit of attention, a mirror for the love shone by her adoring fandom. If you're new to Bayonetta, don't imagine that you're just suiting up for a third-person melee fighting game. That's the genre of video game that you'll be playing, but it's not the experience you're about to have. Far more impactful, I think, is the creativity and variety on display. I mean, there's a whole bunch of side chapters where you just play as Jean in a 2D side-scroller grid-based stealth game. There's so many insane chase sequences where you're running toward or away from something on either a giant locomotive or a T-Rex-like demon. There's one section that plays like the trench run from Star Wars, and another one that is a literal rhythm game, and it is so good. Oh my god, it's like the highlight of the whole game for me, to be honest. What you know you'll get when you pick up Bayonetta 3 is an excellent character action game. Weapons, enemies, combat, combos, you know the drill. What you won't know, and what you won't ever be able to predict, is where this game will go next at any moment. Geographically, temporally, narratively, its perspective, its gameplay genre. Bayonetta 3 feels like an anthology of good times, totally unconcerned with limiting itself based on what might fit or what might make sense. Platinum are constantly trashing such restraints, letting things play out in the most audacious, unexpected, and fun way possible. That's the guiding star for Platinum here. You can tell they just sat in a room and were brainstorming, and they kept asking themselves, what would be fun to do here? And someone would come up with some batshit crazy idea, and then they'd be like, cool, let's do that. It's all the stuff that I won't spoil for you here in this review, but it's that stuff that's really going to stay with me. If you've never played a Bayonetta game before, I really urge you to take a chance on this one, and if you have, then I think you are going to be very, very happy with what Platinum have done here.
Now, why don't you sit for mummy?
As we all know, Bayonetta can harness the power of her hair to summon demonic monsters, terrifying all who gaze upon them. And if your body hair also terrorizes all who gaze upon it, then it's probably time to get rid of it. I'm very glad that we're able to do a Manscaped integration on a Bayonetta video, by the way. This just feels so right. But there's even more layers to it. You ready? Bayonetta strives for pure platinum clears in every verse. And now you can too, thanks to Manscaped's Platinum 4.0 package. I'm not making this up, by the way. It's actually called the Platinum Package. Perfect synergy between video game and ad read. Love it. The Manscaped Platinum Package 4.0 is the one-stop shop for the man who deserves it all. They designed this package to allow you to fully align your entire hygiene routine with elite products. Inside this platinum package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, ultra premium body wash, ultra premium 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, ultra premium deodorant, crop preserver anti-chafing ball deodorant, crop reviver ball spray toner, anti-chafing boxes, and the shed travel bag to hold all your goods while traveling. First off, the Lawnmower 4.0. Manscaped say this thing is the greatest ball trimmer ever invented, and since they're pretty much the only entity who specializes in ball trimming, I'm inclined to believe them. These people know balls. Their 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof and also has a 400K LED spotlight when you need a more precise shave. Ever wanted to spotlight your junk? Well, now you can. Please use responsibly. In addition to shaving, you can now completely upgrade your shower routine with the ultra premium body wash and ultra premium 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. You'll have your skin and hair feeling hydrated and smelling fresh. Don't forget to apply their aluminium-free ultra premium deodorant for that cologne quality scent on the go. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts in their Platinum Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxes and the Shed Travel Bag. Bring your comfort and your boxes to another level. The Platinum Package 4.0 covers all bases from head to toe, the best bang for your shebang. It's time to take care down there, so go to manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping with the offer code SKILLUP. That's 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com using offer code SKILLUP. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Thanks to them for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.